I can't wait any longer.
Let's go.
I can't believe you committed suicide. I cannot believe you committed suicide. How could you have done this? How could you have committed suicide?
Damn, we need to make this thing even.
I can't believe it's you. Don't tell anyone. I'm not ready for this. Don't tell anyone. Thank you.
Hello and welcome, all you Breen weavers, to this, the first episode of My Scene with Breen, a podcast where we'll be chatting to those lucky select few who have in some way been involved in making a movie with the film director Neil Breen. Now, seeing as Breen is famous for directing, producing, writing, editing and even food catering his movies, chances are most of our guests will be actors or actresses. But who knows? We'll see in the future. I'm your host, Neil Knipe, and I'll be aiming to try and penetrate some of these mysteries around the man whom I suppose could be described as a cinematic auteur by grilling those who have worked with him and aiming to understand the legendary, guarded Neil Breen a little better. I'm presuming if you're listening to this, you are at least somewhat familiar with Neil Breen and his body of work. However, seeing as this is our first episode, let's give a quick introduction to the man. Neil Breen studied architecture and this led him to become a working, fully licensed architect. But due to an interest in film and filmmaking he developed at an early age, he chose to self-finance his own movie that was released in 2005, titled Double Down. 5 more movies followed over the next 2 decades, with the most recent, Cade the Tortured Crossing, premiering just last year. Breen fast became known for his epic narratives that promoted a sense of social responsibility, all done on a low independent film budget, as well as taking on numerous roles during the production. Excluding the roles already previously mentioned, Breen regularly takes on casting, wardrobe, props, makeup and hair, lighting design, production design, director of photography, location manager, accounting, aerial rigging, and of course he also performs as the lead character in each one of his pieces. This hard work has garnered Breen and his oeuvre a cult following, a 5-film retrospective documentary cum filmmaking masterclass made by the man himself, numerous screenings at international film festivals, and now this podcast itself. This episode my guest will be Maraud Ford, who appeared as the gang leader in Breen's second feature film, 2009's I Am Here Now. I believe it's mandatory to put the pausing to represent the 4 ellipses. Yes, that's 1 more dot than is common. Neil Breen always goes the extra mile, even with punctuation. I chatted to Maraud, who's currently living out in Malaysia, about his life, both pre and post Breen, improvisation allowance, fight choreography, and just what do those doll heads symbolise. And as we talked, it struck me that Ford had certain similarities to Breen himself. Not just a coincidental career in property development, but like Breen, Ford is a hard, determined, passionate worker and a real blue sky thinker. The first thing, I'm sure you've, have many achievements over the years. We'll find out soon whether being in I Am Here Now is one of them. But your achievement today is, and I hope you're honoured, you're the first guest of the My Scene with Breen podcast. Is that an honour that you will hold with you?
Of course, yeah, I will. I certainly will. Anytime somebody takes precious moments out of their life, which is priceless, you simply can't get these minutes and these moments and these opportunities back. So anytime somebody is willing to divest with those moments of their existence with me, just to talk to a person, I think it's humbling, and I appreciate the time and the effort that you get. Thank you.
Before you crossed paths with Neil Breen, what was your life leading up to this?
I grew up in Illinois, and I went off into the Air Force at a young age. I was kind of, as a young man, I was always an entrepreneur. I was always into working, cutting grass, and all of that. I eventually went to the military, went to the Air Force. I got out of the Air Force to go to pursue education. And so I went to college. I initially started my undergrad at pre-med, I wanted to be a dentist. That was my dream, to be a dentist. And unfortunately, I didn't have all of the support and the finance to continue at that moment. But I got into so many different, that kind of segue into just basically an all-out attempt to make money in any way. So I got into, club scenes. I got into I eventually at 24, I opened up my first barbershop tattoo and tattoo shop altogether, 24 on the south side of Chicago. So that went well. I really experienced, but it was so much violence and stuff going on there that I just couldn't see myself continuing going on with that. So I moved to Atlanta, and in Atlanta, it seemed to be wide open. This was 1999. It seemed to be wide open. Everybody's opportunity, prosperity. People are, whatever dream, you can achieve. And it was that kind of aura and that attitude that kind of permeated the society of Atlanta at that time. So I certainly felt it, and I tried to acquire everything that I thought I could possibly acquire. I got into the barber business, same thing. And eventually I had 2 shops going in Atlanta. Then I broke into the real estate market, which everybody who had a dog whistle could buy in America could get into the real estate market. I wasn't experienced. I didn't have a mentor to show me how to do anything. I had bought a catalog and went crazy, just trying to buy every piece of real estate I could get my hands on, tried to renovate everything that I could, slept in property, slept on the floor until I finished them, rented them out, and went to the next property. I did that for a couple of years, and I got up to about 5 properties before the market crashed on me and went into, had to file bankruptcy. Which is, for me, a lot of people that's shameful, but for me, it was just being an entrepreneur my whole life. It was a really pivotal point that changed my perspective on the whole economic system of not only the United States but of the world. It made me more intuitive and start to try to look into that. 2, it made me value more about life than about materialism. So I thought that having houses and cars and jewelry and all of that stuff was the most important thing, because that's how I grew up thinking that those were important. My values began to change. So I stopped, it changed me. So I got out of the barber business. I left it. Obviously, got out of the real estate business, and I decided that, okay, at my last condo that the court didn't take, I sold it. I went to Costa Rica for a while with a friend, and we stayed there till we ran out of money. And then we came back and we started over to save again, but with the in mind that we were gonna travel. So let's save up some money and let's travel. And that's what we did. The first stop was Vegas, which was where I met Neil Breen. During that process, I was a limo driver. So as a limo driver, so I was hustling, and I looked into, I think it was Craigslist, because some friends had said, "Man, why don't you be an actor? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this?" I was like, I don't have any traditional training as an actor. I don't have any skills whatsoever as an actor. But they said, you don't have to go in there. Just go in as a backup person, as a person in the background. I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. Just walking around doing, yeah. So that's what I intended to do when I met Neil Breen. I was expecting to be a background person. But however, when I met him through the Craigslist, he said, come on over and let's talk and let's see. And I guess he wanted to initially fill out my character, my personality, and see would I be suitable for a role in one of his movies, which role, or if, whatever. And very nice gentleman. From what I saw and I experienced with him, he treated everybody around him with respect and dignity. And given I didn't spend a lot of time around him, but the time that I did spend around him, he was just a cool, laid back, kind of old school he felt like an old Hollywood producer type of dude. That's what he felt like.
So they'd been, so as we know, kind of, you found Neil Breen through Craigslist, and I believe this is where he does his casting, or used to do his casting anyway. But so was this the first thing you'd come across, or had you'd been pursuing kind of acting a little bit up to this point, despite having no training, or?
Exactly. So what happened was it was the first thing I ran into was a broker, an agent, and I went and had to take a headshot for the agent. I forgot what the agency's name was, but I did take pictures and stuff for the agency. But before I even got any work with that agency, and I did eventually get work out with that agency, before I even got that, I just kept looking in Craigslist, and eventually Neil Breen had responded. I don't know if I sent the headshot or whatever, but he responded and said, "Hey, I'd be interested in talking to you. Come on over." And that's what happened.
And the ad was just a kind of looking for actors for a kind of independent, low budget film.
As I recall, it was just looking for actors. And it had, I think, as I recall, it had a list of different positions, different roles, as it were. And, not thinking I would even get it because I never acted in anything. I couldn't act my way out of a paper bag as far as I was concerned. But he saw me. We sat by his pool in the back of his house, and we just talked. And he's like, "You know what? I think that with your personality, you played the gang leader or whatever. I think you'd be perfect for that role." I was like, "Oh gosh, not the stereotypical gang leader. Why couldn't I be the lawyer or the doctor or anything? Why couldn't I be the alien?" But for that moment in my life, I was just pretty happy with just trying something new. And I've always kind of been open to opportunities to expand my horizons and change who I am as an individual and try not to define myself. Just try to keep on experiencing different things.
And was it just a kind of a general chat? Was it just kind of about you, what you were up to? Was there any kind of reading? Do you have to do any line readings or anything?
I think he did give me a little. It was sitting on his table next to the pool, and when we sat down, I think he gave me. I didn't have to read a lot. I think he just wanted me to read like a few lines to just kind of feel out my body language and my energy, as I recall. And then I think that he was like, "Oh, I know." He kind of like he knew exactly what he wanted. I think he knew that when he saw my pictures and stuff. I think he knew that what he already had in mind for me, but he just wanted to see if I could pull it off in present form, and pull it off as, but to him, it's good enough for it to pass for him. So, I guess I did.
And as you said, so you were the gang leader, the leader of the gang in the film I Am Here Now. I think we do have to put the pausing, I believe.
Yeah.
The four dots. Yeah, the four ellipses.
Yeah.
Yes. What in your own words, what is the plot of I Am Here Now? I won't do the pause every single time. We can't do the pause every single
time. Interestingly enough, it spoke to the acumen of Mr. Breen that he makes sure that you weren't around for the whole entire thing. He only had you around for your particular role, so you weren't able to put the whole plot together. You never had the whole script. You never knew the whole movie. And I guess maybe that's what they do. I didn't know that they do that. They separate to make sure you can't put the movie together. But basically, that's what he did with us. He broke the movie up. You only knew your part. So unfortunately, I did not know what the film was completely about until I saw it myself, until it actually came out. I just knew my role and I just did whatever he said do. And, but and to be honest with you, had I been aware that it was about, the environment and about greedy politicians and, things, sustainability and stuff which incident, like I said, I got my master's degree in environmental sustainability. But had I known that and had we had a chance to spend more time with one another, I could have been excited to get more involved, with whatever he was doing, because it seemed like that's what his passion was.
So the story spoke to you. You did appreciate the message and the story that the film was telling.
The conveyance is going to be quirky. It's unique to say the least. Of course, the alien and all that stuff. But that part was just to say, hey, listen, um, you can do better as human species, and you really failed in yourself. And some people, I think he used alien in place of God, and I think the idea was to say that, hey, if there is a creation story, if there is somebody who put us here, if there is all of this, then you guys are really failing that entity. And you definitely are a lackluster example of what you should be as an earthling, and you should be taking care of your planet and your people much better than that. And that goes down from the politicians, politics, to religion, to the environment. And I think he tried to hit all of that. And you can't really appreciate it until, because it's not a big budget thing. So, of course, he couldn't convey it in no Tom Cruise-esque, Leonardo DiCaprio, and all that kind of way. But he brought it away the best way I think he could afford to do it. I understand what he was trying to say. I can appreciate it in my life now. Mm-hmm.
So did you have any conversations with Neil about any of these elements? Because the film, and it's the same with a lot of obviously what Neil does, but not everything is explained, not everything is spoon-fed to you. The being, the Neil's character is the being, that's what it's called. Now, this is some kind of God, Jesus type character. Presumably, it's quite clear that he says he created the world, humans are his experiment. It's presumably not a biblical Jesus, because as we see, there's the zombie mask, this kind of alien mask that comes in. Yet there is Christian symbolism with the stigmata and the crucifixion and things like that. Was there any conversation with Neil about what exactly this creature was he was playing, or?
No, not to me anyway. He didn't really break it down to me to say, hey, this is exactly what I'm trying to say. This is what I'm trying to do, which I think if he spent more time with, and I don't know what he did on other sets, but I can say what I experienced on that set. I think that had he spent more time talking about what it is that he's interested in conveying, I think that it would come across better on his films. But I think Neil is it seemed to be kind of secretive a little bit. And I think he just didn't want his films to get, all his plots to get out. And so he just tell you what to do. And that's the way he wanted it done. And so, because sometimes when I was with him, and we were doing these things, this shooting, and I'm like, hey, excuse me, Neil, I think if I said this, it'd come across more realistic. And in a most polite way, he would say, okay, but I just want you to say it like this. Okay, and hey, it's your movie, man, and
So that's really interesting. I mean, I know I'm asking you to think quite, well, not 20 years ago, but 15 or so years back now. The anecdote of that story, what line was it? Can you remember? What were you going for? Where there was more realism, but then he kind of wanted it in a different way?
So, like, some of the things, like when we were in the middle of a scene and I'm supposed to be acting as this gang leader, and the wording I know is not a gang. Some of the words and the way it comes across, that's not the way it would be in the streets. That's not how, I'm from Chicago. I've been around gangbangers and so on. You can't. And so I'm like, but that's, if I change this word, and he's like, but yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I want you to say, okay,
So there's no real room for improvisation then on the set. It is very much, these are my lines as I've done them, and I would like you to say them like this.
It's exactly how Neil was. He was a perfectionist in that way, in that he wanted you to follow his script in the way. That's the way he saw it. And I mean, I suppose that if you take any producer or whatever, they're going to probably do the exact same thing. They want things to be exactly their way. And but yeah, there was no improv, and I tried to do a lot of improv. He let me get away with some of it as a personality, but he didn't let me get away with it in words. you can do it in personality and body language and all of that, but when it came down to the script, he wanted you to follow the script. And one thing I heard they kept saying was that, hey man, just say the exact words. Don't veer off of that. I was like, oh, okay. I think some of the guys on the side when we were waiting for our time to do, they were like, don't go off the script, just say exactly. And so I was like, oh, yeah, you know.
So and how does he direct? Is he quite a hands-on director? Is he an actor's director? Is he giving you a lot of, focused kind of feedback and direction? Or is he more focused on the technical side?
I don't find Neil at that time, and like you said, I'm just trying to do a recall, and I've only did that one with him, but he didn't seem to be that focused on the technical as he was on just saying the lines. Like, okay, I just want you to say this, and that, if you call that technical, I mean, when you say technical, I'm thinking you might be referring to the camera work and the angles and things like that. Because he had such a small operation, I don't think he could have got as technical as he wanted to get. You know what I'm saying? If he had a bigger operation, he could have really had 3-4 different views, different angles, different perspectives. But yeah, he had a small operation. He just needed you to try to do it as fast as possible, as right as possible, and get 1 take or 2 take, and let's get this and move on, because time is money. You got 10, 15 people sitting on the set right there. He got to pay everybody about an hour. So he's just a small person, a budget. So obviously he just wants you to get it as fast as possible.
Well, I mean, this is, like you said, obviously, Neil's famous as well for, taking on multiple roles. Virtually everything that is involved in making a film, he handles mostly. So what about some of those, some of the like minutiae with things, with your wardrobe? I know he kind of puts himself down as the wardrobe, but were you asked just to bring your own costume, or was it provided for you?
I think the only people who, he didn't even tell me what to wear. That's why I was under the impression I probably was going to have like a jacket or a hoodie, or he's going to have something he wanted me to wear, or, so I just came in some jeans and a t-shirt, and there was nobody telling me what to wear. I was like, this is, okay. Now, some of the politicians, they had suits on, so it's apparent that he told them to come with a suit. But for me, I was just like, this is what I'm wearing. Okay, yeah, all right. I guess I look gangster enough with my jeans and t-shirt on. So yeah.
And you say obviously it's pacey. He really knows what he wants. Does that still allow for a fun atmosphere? Is there a good atmosphere on set?
I think it really was. It was a great experience, and it wasn't stuffy at all, and it seemed, to be honest with you, even after, everybody seemed like I really thought, man, this is going to be something. Not necessarily film, but just the relationships that you're building with these people that you're talking. So many of them we kept in contact for a few years. I lost contact with everybody, but for a while we kept in contact. Like, what are you working on? What are you up to? Oh, I just did this little this and I just did this little that. And we were keeping in contact. And I moved to California after that. So I was really thinking, oh, maybe I will get into that stuff, but I never did.
So is that because you didn't pursue it, or you did pursue it but the opportunities didn't come up?
I didn't pursue it any further. I don't know. I didn't take time out to get into it.
The acting bug didn't bite you?
Not to the point that I would forego making a living, trying to chase after these roles and chase after. I was working 2 or 3 jobs in San Diego, and I was still I finished my bachelor's after 2 years in San Diego. So I really wasn't chasing after the acting dream, because I didn't feel like I had the convenience to be able to chase after that. It was get money and finish school. That's the only thing I could concentrate on at that time,
What scene are you the most fond of? Maybe from a performance point of view, or from an enjoyment point of view when you're filming?
When he told me to walk around and like just touch people on the shoulder and make them nervous, and then so I walk around and to give people the impression that you're going to be the person, and to me that was the only part that really mattered
Is this the way you're
behind me.
revealing? Is this the way you're revealing who the undercover cop is? Is it? Yes. Okay.
Exactly. And really, I was turned all the way up. I had the knob turned on. I think they kind of made me turn it down just a little bit, but I was going crazy. Like I was trying to bring it across, like I was in a real life or death situation. And but one of the other guys who was acting with me, he was like, "I think you got it, man."
And what follows on from that is obviously you. Well, first question I suppose is how do you know? Is there any explanation as to how you know who the rat is, who the undercover cop is?
I think I was supposed to already know, and I didn't tell nobody who it was. I didn't tell the person who it was, that I knew who they were. So essentially, I was supposed to have already figured it out. It didn't come across on the film because obviously he didn't put that. I didn't have to do no scene like that, but I had already known who that person was, and my group, I think, as I recall, knew who it was too. They were just waiting on me to grab them, and then
And what follows on from that, of course, is you tie the policeman up, and there's a brutal scene where he is beaten. Was there any kind of choreography for that? Was anything kind of set up, or again, did Neil just kind of say, "Look, just go for it"?
Well, I would say 50-50. He was just like, "Okay, what I want you guys to do is grab him and drag him, and I want you to put him on a chair, and then I want you to wrap him up, and then you do this, and then we're gonna stop, and we're gonna put a little blood on him and everything." And so that's kind of how he operated with. And then he's like, "Then we'll keep going," and then so he'd talk to you like that, and and we be kind of thinking like we'll keep going until they say cut. And that's when we figured it out. Like, okay, don't stop acting until he yells cut. And so, we said, okay, I want you to do it again. And so we did it again, and, but again, like I said, 1 or 2 takes, and Neil was on to the next scene. He was not going to waste no money and too much time, He wanted to get the film done.
And where were those scenes filmed? Because obviously it's a run-down area, isn't it?
Well, as you see, and I haven't seen all of his movies all the way through, but as you can see, a lot of desert scenes are in his movie. And that's because we're in Vegas. So it's easy to get a free desert scene, just drive out there and nobody's going to say you can't use it. You don't have to get a lot of permits. You don't have to do a lot of stuff like that, as I'm assuming. So we did go to an abandoned place, and I guess he figured if you're only going to be out there 4 or 5 hours, who's going to say anything? Nobody. It's probably going to be like, man, they see cameras and people acting, generally speaking, I don't think the police is going to say, hey, you got a permit for that? Probably not. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to be there for a few, as long as you're not blowing up anything, setting anything on fire, or causing any kind of real ruckus or loud noise, which we weren't. We were in and out of there for 4 or 5 hours on each scene. So some things were public, but generally that was right off. One of them was right off the go down to the end of the Las Vegas Strip, right in an area where there was just torn down buildings. So he apparently was knew Las Vegas area really well. So he knew what areas to go to film. He would have you come to his house and he'd drive you in an SUV over to the scene. So all you had to do was be at his house.
Just to go back there, just to what we were talking about, this overall, message of the film. We have the environmentalism angle. In some ways, it's a bit like a parable as well, isn't it? Everything's quite heightened. You're a horrible character, of course, in the film. People are tipping over wheelchairs. They're pulling out guns at stoplights. But then, at the same time, we've said this isn't Jesus Christ. Does that make it an anti-religious film?
I think it would be unfair for me to state his religious ideology because we didn't actually speak on it. But I would say that possibly he believes in an entity that created, or a force that created everything. I don't think that if I had to guess that he would define that force as a God or as Jesus or anything like that. I think that he was just using that as imagery to bring across, the idea, the message. But if I had to guess, and that's all it would be, I don't believe that he would be a religious fundamentalist kind of person.
And in your opinion, how successful do you think the film got across that message? Did you like the film when you saw it?
I mean, when I saw it, it was just a surprise, because I didn't. It was just the disappointment for me was that I didn't know everything that was involved in the film. I'm like, man, if I known this was the film, I would have probably came to the set for free just to watch the other parts and stuff, because I'm a person who believes in all of those ideas. I do believe that politics needs to reform, if at all be to be existent. I'm a person who does believe that there's forces in nature, but I don't believe in the dogmatic beliefs of religion. I am a person who believes that there's a problem with us taking care of the environment in our world and our planet. I fundamentally take up positions that we have a lot of responsibility and that we are essentially the caretakers to this world, and possibly we're not doing our job as well as we could be doing it. So that the only thing that kind of disappointed me is that I didn't have the ability to be around for the whole thing.
If you're enjoying this podcast, then why not follow Bite My Thumb on Twitch? I stream 3 times a week with a variety of fun, silly and geeky content. On Mondays, half human, half squid man and star of stage and screen, Terence Hampshire hosts the greatest pop culture game show on the internet, Squid Games. Wednesdays see the YouTuber Dan Does co-host the 80s horror film review show, A Journey Through Darkness. On Saturday brings a retro film and TV watch along. It's all live and interactive, where you can chat along and join in. And if Dungeons & Dragons is your thing, please go to your preferred podcast provider and download and subscribe to Dungeons and Dickheads, where 3 idiots test the limits of their dungeon master's patience with their ineptitude. I'll be there as Ron San Diego Bentos, the wizard cum buffoon who has been known to test the toxicity of liquid by dipping his genitalia into it. And there's also Porkeye, the socialist dwarf, and Tok, the sticky-fingered tiefling. Just search for Dungeons and Dickheads. I've got just a few what I'm kind of calling quick fire questions now. These are just little indulgences, just little things that you might be able to shed light on, you may not be able to shed light on. I'm not too sure. Do we know what, and I know this isn't one of your scenes, do we know what the dolls' heads in the desert symbolise?
I don't know what that was. No, and you know what? I wasn't out in the big desert part for any of those scenes, so I didn't really understand. I just thought it represented death, and that I guess maybe just instead of putting a whole, I think in any other scenes he didn't have a skeleton out there, did he?
There's a skull, yes. There's a spider as well, yes.
Right.
Yes.
I think this is just another attempt at him showing the imagery of death, and like poison and death and despair. And, when you think of things like a spider, you think of things like a skull, you think of things like a baby doll. It's just that I think he just wanted to put forth that's what the alternate outcome will be.
Why are the greedy corporates? Why are they just hanging around with the gang? What is the gang specifically doing for the corporates?
Okay, well, the corporations have to pay off the gangs. So basically, like the politicians and all the greedy corporate people, essentially what he was trying to effectively get across is that we're all in cahoots. Drugs get sold to these politicians and so on and so forth. Politicians pass laws that cause people to go to jail, be involved in gangs, and do all of this stuff. And he's basically essentially trying to give off the impression that all of these things exist because we have a failed system that keeps failing individuals, and it just keeps this ridiculous cycle of indecency, disrespect, drugs, prostitution, bad laws, bad judicial system. And in my opinion, I think he was all dead on with that. Obviously it might not come across as well as a big film would come across, but that was what people trying to show.
Tiny thing I was fascinated. The guns that you used, prop guns, I presume, but were these toy guns? Were these sprayed, or were they hired, or X guns? Were they?
No, they were just toy gun, basically like a pellet gun.
Yeah.
I think that he wanted one to look chrome, so it wasn't even like a chrome gun. I think he spray painted it silver, but it's got a can of spray paint. And so, yeah.
Why were you in a suit on the crucifixion? Are you still the gang leader when you're being crucified? Was the suit just to fit in with everybody else, or?
Probably just fit with everybody else. I don't know why he told me to put on the suit. Maybe he just wanted that. Maybe he just wanted it to come across like in death. If you were buried, what would you be wearing? So I guess he was, he wanted to give off that. In that time, in your death, when you go to your death, you're going to be dressed up. Most people get put away in the casket in suits and stuff. So.
Yeah, real minutia now. But I know there's so many people who I know who are interested in this. What is the catering like on a Neil Breen film? Because I know he does his own catering, doesn't he?
It was just like, I believe it's just like he had ordered something that was like, you know how the sandwich shops and stuff like that, where they cut the little sandwiches and stuff like that. Yeah, it wasn't, big to do, but it was just enough to make sure that everybody, sandwiches, little, and drinks and stuff, and, chips and things like that. Do a whole lot, but he didn't have to do a lot because there wasn't a ton of us anyway. So
he's not in the kitchen making it himself. Then he's getting the professionals in.
There's no Anthony Bourdain or anything like that going on. Rest in peace.
And then my little minutia here, and it's a very cheeky question, so I do apologise in advance. But is there a reason why the ladies don't wear bras in the films?
I think that crazy thing is, I only acted with one lady for one brief scene, and the rest of those other scenes, I never saw those. I wasn't around for any of those things, so I just assumed that Neil likes women to, let it all hang out, as it were.
There we go.
I think when you think about it, sex sells, and the more you can, kind of pander to that notion of sensuality and sexuality, I think that you can probably get more audience with that.
I do think, and to be fair, in I Am Here Now, these women are sex workers, aren't they? So there is some logic there. There's some logic there, I suppose. We do have...
Absolutely. Yeah, the idea is, that's supposed to be that, you're selling them to the politicians, and politicians call me for drugs. They call me for prostitutes. They call me for, things like, and I supply that because they're all trying to give off this facade of this decent lifestyle that they're living, and they're supposed to be people of the public and people of the office. But the reality is, the politicians are just as human as everybody else. The religious people are just as human as everybody else. They do all of the things, they just hide it under the rug. But there is always a broker somewhere in the underbelly of our society that these people use. And that would be a person like me in the movie, where, they would come to me for the drugs. They would come to me for prostitutes and things of that nature. And we would get them for them,
So so you've told us that you didn't pursue acting after this. So where did life take you after your experience with Neil and to where you are now?
Yeah, so I went to San Diego, like I said, and honestly, to be honest with you, I had it in my mind because I had one associate that was a singer, and I thought maybe I might get back into this, but first let me start with my master's degree, and I started with my master's, so I never got back into it. Excuse me. What I ended up doing was I started. I purchased 5 acres in the California city for United States veterans, because in California they were saying that 1 out of every 4 veterans was homeless, so my passion began to be, earth ships, geodesic monolithic dome homes, things that were affordable, easy to create, safe environments for people who didn't have a lot of money. And unfortunately, the cost was prohibitive. I would have had to drill a well and the well would have cost me in excess of about $70,000. And that's not guarantee I would have hit water. USD. Unfortunately, that kind of killed that dream. And I worked on that for about 2 years to do that. And I thought that I was going to put barbershops there. I was going to use wind turbine to generate electrical and make money off of that, a solar panel system, because we were in a desert. So we had plenty of wind, plenty of sun. And I was going to use, drill well, dig, put cistern tanks and everything. And, the homeless people would have a place to be, would be able to get a job, do something that they wanted to do. And I had it all drawn. I spent all my time as a security. I worked security while I was doing my degree. And I spent all my security jobs sitting down drawing these plans out of how this shipping container community would look. So anyway, I saved up the rest of my money. And me and my partner at the time, we decided that we were going to take as long as we could take off and travel as much as we could travel. And so then we started in Athens, Naples, Milan, and then we went to Monaco, past Nice, and all of that stuff. And that took us about almost a year. We didn't run out of money until we got to Paris. And there was a lot of issues. There was a lot of political issues going on in Greece. I had to be very careful there. People wouldn't sell me tickets to go to the island. People didn't want me in their restaurant. In Spain, they denied even serving me and my lady at the time. And when I was taking the Eurorail in Italy, everybody who was of dark complexion had to stand up on the Eurorail. So literally, you'd be on the Eurorail looking down, and everybody who was African or Black was standing up along the windows. And then when I was asking to sit down, the people put their legs over the seat and said, "No, you can't sit down." So,
wow,
yeah,
I had no idea that this was, gosh.
I think a lot of people didn't talk about it, or maybe they didn't have a platform to speak on it, or that many of them were immigrants, so they didn't really have a voice. And I appeared to be an immigrant because I'm there with book bags and we're just traveling across. And so people didn't know until like when for instance, on the train, when I asked, "Can I sit down?" to the conductor, he said, "Give me your ticket. Let's see." And I opened up my passport. That's when the facial expressions of all the people who were treating it changed. And I'm like, so basically you thought it was okay to mistreat all of these people on the basis of where they're from? Because they ain't from where they're from, because basically what they look like. The only reason why you're trying to treat me a little different is because of where I'm from. And so that was a great lesson, because I spent many years watching House Hunters International, Anthony Bourdain, and I was enthralled with this idea that it's got to be better than America there. But unfortunately, in 2013, it was a tough time. My lady broke down crying a couple times. So, then when we came back, I got into different things like foster care. I worked at the juvenile detention center. Went to the academy to work with juveniles. Then I opened up a vehicle, a transportation business. And then I came back. I finished my degree, got into property management, working for a property management company. Then I got into trading. And this whole time, Neil, I had been practicing traveling. What happened was, during that time, I came to Thailand, and it just blew the lid off of everything for me psychologically. It said a lot of things. It said, one, there are places in the world where every person gets treated with dignity and respect. It said, two, that people do lend a common courtesy to other human beings in some places in this world. It said, three, that you can take the money that you make in the West and use what I like to call a lifestyle arbitrage. You can take that money and use it to live a better life in another country. And when I went to Thailand, I saw it. I saw it right away. I said, wow. I said, when I go back home, I'm going to try to situate my life so that I can come back out here and live a better life. And so I came back. Once I got good, I got out of my job. I started my trading things. I started my channel and stuff like that. And I came back to Asia, and I've been traveling around Asia ever since, and trading and traveling. That's the way I do it.
I think your life is worthy of a movie in itself. I think everything you've done, everywhere you've been, your outlook on life. I think maybe Neil should make your life stories his next film. We should suggest it.
I think I don't have a God complex enough.
Yeah, that might be the problem. That you might have a good point there. So how do you look back now on this? What's a tiny part of obviously your life with Neil Breen? Are you proud of that moment? Do you look back on it fondly?
In many respects, I wish that it wasn't everything that I ever did in that field. Because I think that if I'm being fair, even though I'm not a trained professional, I think that I could have probably offered more in that field. So that I don't even though I don't have a career as an actor, that's the only thing that I have that really, some background roles, but nobody will ever see me on that stuff. But if somebody looked back and said that guy was an actor, they're going to look at one film and they're going to say that's all he ever did. And it's like, that's the only regret I feel like and again, it's not too late, Neil. I could probably go get a coach training, become an actor, be better at it, and at least get some small roles, and at least I'll have a bigger body. But do I regret it? Not at all. Am I fond of it? There's very few things in life that I really, really regret. And that certainly is not one of them. I'm certainly happy that Neil took a chance on me. And I'm certainly happy that he thought, albeit just of a gang leader, but at least he thought of me enough of a gang leader to play that role in a film that he knew would go throughout time. And, so I appreciate the opportunity that it afforded me. It didn't make me rich, it didn't make me successful, it didn't make me famous, but it was something that I can add to the resume of life. And for that, I appreciate Mr. Neil Breen.
And on that, I'll say thank you very much, Maraud. What a wonderful chat. Thank you. Huge thanks to Maraud for talking to me there. If you'd like to see what Maraud is currently up to, then please head over to www.cosmictrainingacademy.com. Cosmic is spelled COZMIK. There you'll discover how to navigate the complex trading option markets effectively and be offered comprehensive online courses that take you from novice to knowledgeable trader in no time. So as you could hear, his time on I Am Here Now was clearly a special one to him that he looks back on fondly, and he's got nothing but appreciation to Neil Breen for. After I stopped recording, we did continue chatting for a few minutes, and Ford said that he was aware of the mockery Breen's work can sometimes get, but that it wasn't something that bothered him. That these films were achievements in self-funded independent cinema, that it didn't affect his positive experience on the set, and that, most importantly, he got paid. That's it for the first episode of My Scene with Breen. I have a few more interviews currently being discussed, so hopefully we'll be back soon. In the meantime, though, if you're one of the many people I've contacted, if you worked with Neil Breen, if you're listening right now, please get in contact. I'd love to speak to you. I can be reached at bitemythumbtv at hotmail.com. For everyone else, please subscribe, share, rate. All those things really, really do help, and it just increases those chances of getting more guests on. Okay, I'm off to go tuck into a nice can of tuna. Until next time, Breen Weavers. You've been listening to My Scene with Breen, a Neil Breen podcast and a Bite My Thumb production. Your host is Neil Knight. Bite My Thumb can be followed on Twitter or X at bitemythumb, on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/bitemythumb, on YouTube at bitemythumbtv, or on Letterboxd at bitemythumb. All music was written and created by Plays. He can be followed on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/Plays, where every Saturday morning at 12 PM he'll be making live music. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and rate this episode.